Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I say this every time, it's been a while, but hopefully I'm getting back into the swing of things. We're going to take a look at a 2019 model from Liong Mah, and that is the Cuff KUF or Kitchen Utility Folder, and this is version 2. Now, I've had this one here for months and months and months, certainly an inappropriate long amount of time. And Liong has been nice enough to lend me a few others as well for the video, so definitely sorry to him for the delay. I've known him for a long time, definitely puts his customers first. He's a good guy, and he designs some great knives, and with Riyadh's execution, everything from him is very good. So we're going to look at the version 2 here. About 2 years ago, he released the version 1. And there were a number of changes and, as I would say, improvements from the version 1 to the version 2. So we do see nicer milling on the handles overall. We've got some different inlays, including some micarta, carbon fiber, standard, titanium handles with no inserts. There are multiple opening methods that, yes, we will cover. And of course, one of the most important things on this kitchen utility folder is the thinner blade stock that Liong has utilized on this and quite a few other of his newer models. He did have to really talk David over at Riyadh Knives into the thinner blade stock. David was like, no one wants it. Liong was like, no, everyone wants it. And luckily, Liong won out, and he's been releasing some of the newer models with the thinner blade stock. So this is definitely one of them. Just off the bat, the prior version, the Cuff 1, came in at 0.16 or 160 thousandths thick blade stock. The version 2 is 0.13 or 130 thousandths inches in terms of the blade stock. So, all right, let's move this out of the way. I'm going to show you guys some of the other versions. I don't have them all here, but this one is the green micarta inlay. Micarta is on both sides here. The standard titanium model with no inlay, kind of a bead or media blast finish on this one. And then here is the carbon fiber version. Inlays are very, very nicely done. The version that I don't have here is a brown micarta, so just imagine this one, but more brown. Hopefully the camera's showing you kind of the green hue here. This one has been pocketed for a while, so you're definitely going to see some of that blue is discoloration from jeans, and just par for the course with micarta. Green micarta is definitely one of my favorites, so yeah. All right, let's jump into some of the basic specs here. We've got the Para 2 for a size comparison, and pretty much right in line with the Para 2, and then we also have the Kershaw Dividend as always, so, and it is bigger than the Dividend, of course. So all right, one measurement we'll have to take is thickness behind the edge. Got the calipers at the ready. Overall length is about 8 inches, handle length is about 4.5, blade length is about 3.5, and the cutting edge overall is about 3.3 inches. It is what I'd call a sheep's foot blade. Maybe you'd call that a drop point. Tomato, it is a flat grind. We already talked about the blade thickness at 0.13. And then the handle's actually coming in pretty thin too. It's under half an inch at 0.45 inches. So that's certainly a thinner handle here. We can see it next to the Para for a size comparison, and the Dividend is a very, very thin handle here, so just a tad bit thicker than the Kershaw Dividend handle. All right, some of the other specs, M390 blade steel, if I haven't mentioned it. We will get to the opening methods here in a minute. Titanium handles, 3D mill titanium pocket clip. We talked about the inlays. It does run on bearings, and it does use Torx hardware. So now there are left-handed versions as well. I know definitely on Liong's website he's got the left hand, but perhaps on some of the different dealers' websites they also are listing the left-hand versions. But they do exist. Lefties rejoice, the very few of you that there are. Price-wise, They're pretty expensive. I'm not gonna lie. It could be anywhere from like 370 to 445, depending on which dealer you're looking at, and you know, whether or not you're looking at the inlay version or not. So the plain titanium is the less expensive, and the ones with the inlays here are more expensive. So weight about 4.5 ounces on this one. All right, let's take a look at thickness behind the edge. That was the only measurement I didn't do beforehand, but it is, again, a thinner blade stock, and it does use a flat grind, so zeroed out here. Let's take a look. Yeah, about 0.23, 0.24. Oh, we're jumping. Well, all right. So this is where I've got it. I don't know if you guys consider that fair or not, but we're coming in at, we'll call it 0.019. Yeah, I think that's fair. So it is thinner than a para 2 behind the edge, and I was definitely trying not to scratch this thing up with the metal calipers, but again, gives you an idea this thing is very thin behind the edge overall. Now, let's move some of this stuff out of the way and get into some of the more particulars per usual. We do have a, you know, again, maybe a sheep's foot blade. I mean, I think Liong told me, and it's been months and months, so hopefully my memory serves, but, you know, shaped after maybe a Santoku kitchen knife, or, you know, a variation on a chef kitchen knife, but a lot of belly, a lot of curve, and then the handle actually comes up above the edge of the blade. So the thought process here is you can, you know, roll on a cutting edge if you want to, or if that's your aim. So, you know, it is geared, as the name implies, perhaps towards food prep or cutting in the kitchen. Personally, I don't really like to use my pocket knives on food and then stick them back in my pocket. I find that gross, because then there's food on my knife in my pocket. But a lot of you guys might, you know, that's my personal issue. But you don't necessarily have to buy this for food prep, to be honest. But that is kind of the premise behind the overall design, is that fingers up in line or slightly above the edge of the blade. So, you know, you can do pinch and you can pinch it. I mean, anyways, various grips for cutting purposes, and lots of belly with that sheep's foot, so you can rock the blade. All right, so I mean, that hopefully that's pretty self-evident here. Now, Liong was a professional chef, I believe a pastry chef, for a number of years at I think the Ritz-Carlton somewhere in New York area. So I'm sure this model is close to his heart, you know, especially considering that he brought out a version 2, and not all of his knives see a second version, but this one he felt like there was room to either improve or refine the design overall. And as his designs have improved and gotten better, Riyadh's production capabilities have also improved at the same time. So it's always getting better. Now, again, we've got a pretty thin handle overall, coming in at less than 1/2 inch. So it is nicely rounded. Made a really good effort here to round on the edges. It feels mostly, I mean, there might be some rounding here, but it feels mostly flat with some really nice rounding on the edges, perhaps similar to like a McGinnis, if you guys have handled any of his custom knives. Backspacer, we do have a lanyard pin here that's completely separate from the blade, so you don't have to worry about cutting that off. And closed, the blade is completely protected, so you're not going to get anywhere near the tip. The backspacer does have additional milling in order to fit that wider blade into the handle, of course. What the heck did I get in there? I think that's tape. I don't know when or how I did that, but I've got some tape in there. I feel bad. Oh well, at least I use it. So that's what the interior construction looks like. All right, let's see what else do we have going on here on the handles. Let's take a look at some of the micarta work, really up close. Pretty clean overall. Very, very minimal to no gaps. So that is encouraging. Now this one doesn't incorporate a stainless steel lock insert like most of Liong's knives. likely due to the overall thinness of the whole package. And it's also not incorporating the, this is what I've got in my pocket, the Zulu. I'll get to a video on this one, but the deep carry clip that he's been utilizing on a lot of his newer models. I don't think the really thin handle here is really incorporating that. Or I think that because the handle's so thin, that's why it's not utilizing that. But again, that's just a guess. I forgot to ask him on that. All right, so that is, that's pretty much the handle here. Let's take a look at lockup. 30%-ish. Centering is, as you would expect, spot on. So, all right, let's talk about the opening methods. So again, we do have the opening hole here. Middle finger flick it, thumb stud, or thumb flick it. Holy cow. I'm off my game, guys. I'm rusty. And the flipper tab, or the front opening tab. So it looks like a, I can't remember which bird. You guys will light me up in the comments. Levon at the Knife Nuts podcast called this the Teletubby flipper tab. And to be honest, it works. And this is probably one of the most controversial aspects of this knife, is people are like, I don't like the front flipper, the flipper tab on top of the knife. But it works, and it works well. It's pretty easy to open. If you want to try one, then obviously that's an easy one to use. If you have any dexterity issues, that's pretty easy. You can also, hook it on some clothing if you want and pull it open. It's a lot more graceful when I'm not underneath the camera. But you have multiple opening methods. They all work well. So funny story. I was at Blade Show 2019. And Tashi Barucha, again, a very well-known French knife designer / maker. He's good at both. He was playing with one of these at his table, and I said, "Hey, you picked up the cuff version too?" And he said, "Actually, it was a gift from Liong because I gave him permission to use my back spacer design." And so Liong gifted him one of these. And he's like, "I really like it, but I think I'm going to cut off this flipper tab." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, if you say so." 10 minutes later, as I was walking kind of by his table again, he was over there playing with this thing quite a bit. I stopped to watch him, and he was really enjoying using the front flipper. So I haven't followed up with him, but I doubt he cut it off. Now, I also took this to a get-together in Arizona that was months and months ago, and everyone said the same thing. They're like, "Oh man, I'd cut that off," but as I handed it around the table, people are like, "You know what? Kind of like that. It's not bad at all." So, again, I think in hand, the flipper tab makes more sense. In pictures, it probably doesn't, and that's some of the heat this knife has gotten, is because of the little flipper tab thingy mabobber up there. But it does have texturing, and so it's, again, pretty easy to use. I don't mind it. It sits in the pocket like so. I don't carry things underneath my knives. It's just like my knife and then my wallet's next to it, so it doesn't cause any problems for me. There's no reason to dislike it or, perhaps not get the knife. Now, one of the other things that I've had people complain to me about is the opening hole here. Since it is a thinner knife, there's not a huge gap here to get your thumb in to disengage it. It hasn't been a problem for me, but, again, I certainly understand here we're with the Zulu, and we've got a much larger gap to get your thumb in there and disengage it. Again, I haven't missed once, so not a problem for me, but, your hand size may be different, or your shape of your thumb, I don't freaking know. All right. So again, you can see the action here. It's pretty good. Overall, is this knife for you? I think if you do like to use your knives for food prep or lunchtime or other things, it's a really good design. It's going to work well. Even if you don't use your knives for food, you are getting a really good slicer here with kind of a wider blade. So, in multiple opening methods, really nice fit and finish from Riot. We know they do an excellent job, and their heat treat is spot on. So, could be for you. Again, it's fairly expensive, so you're going to have to take that into consideration. I don't know what your budget is, but that is the Liong Mah Kitchen Utility Folder or Cuff version 2. And one last thing to give all the angry people something to think about, the noise this thing makes. Oh, makes the craziest noise. And I know people don't like to talk about it, but when you're getting down and dirty with the details and really thinking about knives, that's something that's kind of fun. So we will leave it there. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'm on a good roll. Comments, questions, let me know. Daily content, Instagram, links down below. See ya.